at 6:31, so I'm going to keep moving here. And with that, I'm going to say, first of all, welcome back, everyone. This was the first week of school for students. Hope all of you had a great and successful week, those of you who are involved with students. And this could be Miss Julissa Munoz's first meeting with us as our student advisory trustee. I don't see her on the call at this point, but I will call her for roll. So with that, I'm going to call to order the board meeting of the Maricopa County Community College District Governing Board for August 25, 2020. And I'm going to move into roll of board members. I will start with Ms. Munoz as the student advisory trustee. If you're on, Ms. Munoz, would you please let us know by saying present? All right, I'm going to move on. Mr. Hendricks?
Present.
Ms. McGrath?
Present.
Dr. Narini?
Present.
Mr. Saar?
I'm here.
Dr. Thor?
Here.
Ms. Nguyen?
Here.
I'm present. There's a full quorum of the board, 7 members. With that, then we'll move on to items in the agenda under announcements. Currently, there are no substitutions. There are no student life reports. I will move to item 4, Faculty Executive Council report. Ms. Nango, eager to hear your report.
President Stephen, Governing Board members, Chancellor Gonzalez, CEC, and guests. Evening. I am Patrice Nango, Philosophy Faculty at Mesa Community College and President of the Faculty Association. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words tonight as we begin our fall semester. Still in the midst of the pandemic, we hoped would be a not very fond memory by now. But here we are with little relief in sight and much uncertainty still present. As we begin a new academic year, it is important to assure our colleagues in all employee groups that what seems like the new normal is anything but that. Rather, we would like to characterize it as temporary abnormal, wherein we are all doing our best work despite the difficult times and pervasive uncertainty. But it isn't all chaos and gloom. Greater commitment to shared governance has been one of the positives to come out of these strange and difficult months of communicating, teaching, and working in virtual environments. The recent HLC accreditation report, which was sent to the governing board earlier this year, instructs MCCCD to return to shared governance, reaffirming its importance as a central value and process in Maricopa. With that charge, we are compelled to work together to rebuild and achieve the shared governance that will support the best institution for student learning and success, employee progress and morale, and cohesiveness of purpose throughout MCCCD. The Faculty Executive Council stands ready to provide faculty input into our district's new blueprint for collaborative decision-making as required for the HLC December 2021 interim monitoring report. Chancellor Gonzalez has made his commitment to governance clear and is leading the way by bringing FEC back to participate in governance conversations, and with the groundbreaking inclusion of representatives from the Interim Staff Senate and Adjunct Faculty Association on the Chancellor's Executive Council. Additionally, we are heartened by the return of employee groups to the governance conversation through the establishment of the new Interim Staff Senate and local staff senates at some of our colleges. FEC and the college faculty senates are looking forward to collaborating with these new staff senates to move Maricopa ahead through the exercise of shared governance. While we are committed to returning to normalcy as soon as possible, we recognize that we will retain some of the changes and lessons we have all learned and will continue to learn while adapting to the ever-changing pandemic conditions. We look forward to continuing to build on what we have learned about engaging in different ways with our students and fellow employees across the district. We wish everyone a semester and wholeheartedly join you in looking forward to the day we are able to leave this temporary abnormal behind to embrace the new and hopefully improved normal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nango. With that, I'd like to move to the Adjunct Faculty Association report. I will state that Dr. Teresa Train submitted a written report and does not require speaking on the agenda tonight. I'm moving on to the Interim Employee Senate report, and we're ready to hear you, Ms. Chandler and Ms. Mollinger. Look forward to it. Your turn.
President Sullivan, members of the board, Dr. Gonzalez, members of the CEC, and guests. My name is Shannon Monge. I am Administrative Assistant to the Vice President of Academic Affairs at Paradise Valley Community College. I am here before you today as the co-chair of the Interim Employee Senate for the 2020-2021 academic year. And I'm going to share with you the growth of the employee representation over the past year and our shared governance. Our group was initially formed in July 2019 under the direction of Mr. Elliot Hibbs. We were called the Employee Group Organizing Council. We had representatives from every college and the district office. During the first year, we were tasked to develop employee groups, an employee representation structure, and bylaws. As we developed these groups, structure, and bylaws, we sent out surveys to all employees to gather feedback and address any concerns. We also worked in collaboration with Human Resources, Legal, the Provost Office, and with the Chancellor. We presented our final work during the spring 2020 semester, and we are proud to say it was approved. We now have 3 employee groups and councils, exempt, non-exempt, and sworn police officers, as well as an overall Senate that sits at the district level. We began the next phase, which was to gather self-nominations for the employee councils and Senate. Due to the crisis situation that presented itself to us in March, we were unable to gather enough nominations. In conversation with Human Resources and the Chancellor, we did not want our momentum to fade. So we developed the Interim Employee Senate, which consists of all of those that self-nominated, as well as those that were part of the original group and wanted to continue the great work for another year. We hope to have our councils and Senate built with more representation next academic year. In the spirit of shared governance, we are excited to share that the Interim Employee Senate co-chairs are now a standing agenda item for the governing board meetings. We are members of CEC, attending and contributing to meetings and discussions, and serving on district-wide committees, task force, and work groups. We also work collaboratively with the Faculty Executive Council. The employee representatives are serving on district-wide committees, task force, and work groups as well. They're also working in collaboration with their local executive leadership and faculty leadership. They also work, the Interim Employee Senate actively reviews and contributes to developing district-wide communication, policies, and much more. We would like to thank the governing board, our Chancellor, Dr. Gonzalez, our Provost, Dr. Fisher, our Chief Human Resources Officer, Dr. Georgetta Kelly, members of CEC and faculty leadership for their support in growing employee representation and allowing staff voice to be heard and valued. I will now turn it over to my co-chair, Anna Chandler. Thank you.
President Sullivan, members of the board, Chancellor Gonzalez, CEC, and guests. My name is Anna Chandler, and as Shannon spoke, I am one of the co-leads as well for the Interim Employee Senate, and I am at Scottsdale Community College and I run the ACE program at that campus. One thing I wanted to speak to you about today was the pandemic response for employees. As staff have continued to work hard through the pandemic, finding innovative ways to collaborate and continue to serve students the best to our abilities. As our campuses have also remained open for services, we wanted to take this time to thank essential staff that have remained on campuses to ensure cleanliness per the CDC guidelines, as well as have kept our campuses safe by our public safety. The telecommute opportunities that have been provided and directed through how CEC is having us work with telecommute. We just wanted to take that time to thank everyone that we've been able to maintain a healthy and safe environment for all staff, and really working to be able to advocate as an Interim Employee Senate to make sure that everything's being implemented that is being asked. One of the other things that staff are really positive reaction to is the diversity, equity, and inclusion engagement that we've been speaking to across our campuses, and ensuring that we are all getting our needs met as well as meeting the needs of our students. Each of our campuses have a very diverse community, and this has opened up many opportunities for engaging our students in a different light. And lastly, we wanted to speak to the growth of this employee senate and what we're looking to achieve. We've obviously, as Shannon had spoken to, some of the things that we've already been involved in. We do want to see the Senate grow in shared governance, building trust and a positive morale across campus, engaging ourselves in ways that allow employees to feel they have a voice, class and compensation, the cost of living adjustments, and building an equitable model, diversity, equity, inclusion, and engagement, our hiring process and human resource policies and procedures, and continued campus representation. Thank you so much all for allowing us to come and speak today. We really look forward to future collaboration and work with the CEC, the governing board, and all those involved. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your report, and glad to know that we'll be hearing from you at each meeting. Moving on, Maricopa Student Center report, there is none. There are also no emeritus awards in recognition for this evening, which brings me to the Chancellor's report. Dr. Gonzalez.
Good evening, President Sullivan, members of the board, CEC, and guests that are with us this evening. Thank you for the opportunity to provide an update. As you mentioned earlier, we are off and running for a new academic year and a fall 2020 semester. I'm going to be turning this presentation over shortly to Dr. Carla Fisher to provide you an update on enrollment and what the fall return looks like. But before doing so, I would like to just share with you and others that I had an opportunity yesterday on what was the first day for many students, faculty, and staff. I had an opportunity to visit 3 locations yesterday. I visited Estrella Mountain Community College, Glendale, and a site that is operated by Gateway at 35th Avenue and Bell. And it was an interesting site to see a number of employees and students interacting. Of course, everybody was wearing their masks. Hand sanitizer was readily available, regardless of where you seemed to walk into any buildings. Of course, masks were also available for those who may have forgotten to bring one or left them in their car. So that certainly wasn't an issue. I saw plenty of signs reminding people to practice social distancing, reminding people to wash hands frequently. 6-foot floor markings and directional markings were located throughout the various buildings that I got to see. And I just want to say that all in all, everything looked like it was going well, considering the circumstances, and that the health and safety of our employees and students was certainly a priority. And that was one of the things that I saw. I didn't get a chance to visit every college campus yesterday, but I plan to do so over the next few weeks. But I do want to thank and congratulate Dr. Rivera, Labor Reese, and Dr. Wise for their good work that I was able to see yesterday. And I'm 100% confident that if I had gotten to see all other colleges yesterday, I would have seen very similar excellent work. Again, I want to thank our faculty, staff, and administration for the extraordinarily heavy lift that it took to open up for a very unusual academic year. And the fall semester is off and running. And so I just thank everybody, and thank you for that opportunity to share that personal story and experience that I had yesterday. And now I'll turn it over to Dr. Fisher.
Well, good evening, President Sullivan, members of the board, Chancellor Gonzalez, members of CEC, and guests. My name is Carla Fisher. I'm provost of the district, and I'm here to share with you our fall enrollment analysis and mitigation report. Next slide. So this evening, we'd like to share with you our enrollment data, some analysis of where the data has changed over time, particularly as has been impacted by COVID-19. We'll talk about some of the mitigation that's gone on. Certainly the entire district, the colleges, the district office, staff throughout have been working very hard, faculty as well, working very hard to mitigate the decline that we are seeing. We'll also have a college spotlight from Gateway. They are among our colleges that the college that has experienced the slightest decline. And so we'll invite Dr. Maria Weiss, interim president of Gateway Community College, to share with us some of their outreach. However, this is a spotlight only. All of the colleges have been working equally diligently to try to mitigate this decline and help more students get into school and achieve their dreams. And then, of course, we'll go to summary and next steps, some things we think that we can do for the spring semester and beyond as we get to see what our new normal is going to be in the college world. Next slide. First, we'll start with some enrollment data and analysis of that data. Next slide. So first, just as national framing, community colleges across the U.S. are experiencing some really significant challenges. There seems to be a strong applicant pool at colleges everywhere, but students are staying in a holding pattern as if they're holding off. Some community colleges are reporting enrollment declines of up to 30%. Fortunately, we are not in that position. The greatest impacts seem to be on minority and low-income students. That is reflected in our own data, as we will share. And of course, smaller and rural institutions actually are seeing some increase. And if you look across the community college media, from the Community College Review that's been tracking enrollment declines since February to Inside Higher Ed, just recently they published an article, A Tough Year for Community Colleges, another, what's the likely impact of COVID-19 on higher ed. We're seeing that smaller and rural institutions are seeing some increase, but almost everyone else is seeing declines. And that's certainly true even across the state of Arizona, where we're seeing Pima is tracking slightly behind us, so slightly greater decreases, sort of a double negative there, but I think you understand what I mean, a slightly larger decrease than we are at this time. But just as we will show in our data, these things change daily. Almost all community colleges, and certainly Maricopa colleges, have late start classes. We have second 8-week classes. So we'll continue to see some fluctuations within our headcount and FTSE as we move through time. Next slide. However, when we shared with you last, on Saturday, actually, I believe you received this presentation, we were at week -2. Our data systems update on Sunday nights. And so this is the most recent data that we had. At that point, we were down 15.2% in headcount and 17.1% in FTSE. Next slide. However, on Sunday, we did an update and we have good news to share. We're still down, but we are gaining ground. And so headcount is at 14% down and FTSE is at 15.1%. 1 percentage point I would just remind everyone is approximately $2 million in revenue. So from Saturday to Sunday night, we gained at least $4 million in revenue. And we intend to continue to track this, of course, and expect to see additional gains over the coming week as students continue to gain. We also, again, have late start classes and second 8 weeks that we can rely on. Next slide. So our analysis, we're down in headcount, we're down in FTSE. We're continuing to see a shift from full-time to part-time. And so when you think about the headcount to FTSE ratio, why is it that headcount is down less? It's because we're getting more part-time students. And that's a real challenge for institutions because the services that we provide to students as we're onboarding them, as we advise them, as we support them through their college experience are virtually the same, whether a student is taking a part-time load or a full-time load. And so, of course, when we shift to more part-time students, that puts some significant impact on our revenue, which impacts the service that we can provide. Other year-over-year impacts, we have about 1,000 fewer active courses in fall 2020 than fall 2019. That's a reflection, of course, of our enrollment being down. Our course fill rate is down about 5% compared to fall 2019. Our FAFSA completions are significantly down. We'll share later in the presentation about the Maricopa Opportunity Grants, and those are FAFSA based and have definitely helped us gain ground on FAFSA completions. Of course, those are last dollar grants as well. So getting students to complete the FAFSA is really important, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. We are closing the enrollment gap at week minus 26. So, back at the beginning of the summer, we were down significant. I'm sorry, at minus 13, we were down 26%. If you go back all the way to the beginning of the summer, we were down about 40%, which is a very frightening amount. However, as I mentioned, colleges and the system level outreach has been tremendous. We've been really working to reduce that gap to get us to 14 now at week minus 1. Next slide. I know everyone's very interested in what's going on with our modalities, that is how we offer our classes. Currently, about 88% of our courses are in a distance modality, so online, live online, or hybrid virtual. And I should say that's a technology distance because, of course, we do have print-based study as well. About 7% of our courses are in other types of formats, such as print-based study and independent study, things like that. About 5% of our courses are being offered in person or with a face-to-face component. And some of those face-to-face components can be transitioned to 100% online should need be, but we're trying to maintain as much social distance as we can as we move through the beginning, at least, of the fall semester until we have a better picture of what's going on with COVID-19. Next slide. So our leads are up year over year by 66%. And that seems counterintuitive because we're down 36% in new students for fall 2020 compared to fall 2019. So fewer students are actually abandoning their full application this time. And we've got a lot of students that are currently in our pipeline. But this year, for the very first time, we launched enrollment navigators so that they reach out to all new students, all students who are new to college, new to Maricopa, within 24 hours of them starting their application so that we can help them move, and they touch many times, moving them through that enrollment process. And we're finding that to be quite successful. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. We also think about equity when we think about our enrollment. So we want to keep an eye on different populations of students. We see, as we mentioned in the national picture, our students of color are impacted more than our white students. Our younger students, 18 to 19, oftentimes when you hear us talk about our student populations, we talk 18 to 24. But in this case, slicing it even more thin, this is where we're seeing the biggest challenges. Those 18 to 19-year-olds that are coming out of high school. We're calling it kind of a gap year effect. We're finding that students are holding off. They've been dreaming of going to college their entire high school career. This wasn't the year that they expected it to be any more than it was for any of us. And so we're finding that they are holding back from coming to college. The largest shift is a decline in our new to Maricopa students, enormous shift. We're down 36% in those new to Maricopa students, again, impacted by that 18 to 19 enrollment. And then continuing students are impacted as well at about 18% down. So as we think about moving forward, we really have to focus on converting leads and applicants that are new to Maricopa to enrolled students. We need to focus on retaining our current students and ensuring that equity so that students of color just are not left behind in the process, and we make sure that we're getting them in the door. Next slide. Just to take a brief detour, we wanted to share with you some of our pipeline survey. You'll remember we reported on this back when we ran the survey in June. We've run it again now. So the June population was 35,000 plus. Our August population was 38,000 plus. And so we sent text messages to students that were enrolled in spring, but not for fall. And again, that population, of course, we're hoping to continue. We know that that's our best shot. It's a short survey to ascertain why they just had not enrolled for fall. Next slide. Now, the survey findings were remarkably consistent, both from the June to the August. So about 50% reported that they had concerns due to COVID-19. They reported feeling nervous and worried, confused, perhaps frustrated. And 58% requested follow-up from Maricopa to help them enroll. Next slide. So those that were concerned about COVID were unaware of how we were going to reopen. You know, we think that we communicate often, incessantly. They pointed out to us that we could communicate more and perhaps differently. They were unaware of the modalities of, that is, how courses would be offered. Several, like a big population, were really concerned about trying to take online classes and what that meant in their lives. And they were really concerned about coming to campus, the safety of in-person hybrid classes. In terms of non-COVID related issues, they needed to speak to advisors. They needed to know what the enrollment next steps were. They were waiting to hear from someone. They wanted help with their financial aid. And what this tells us is that our students are really looking for a high touch environment, and our systems are not necessarily built for us to provide high touch to every single incoming student. Next slide. Now let's talk a little bit about what we've done for mitigation strategies around our enrollment. We have an enhanced marketing, next slide, please. We have an enhanced marketing campaign as we've been communicating with you throughout the summer. We've got college and system level enrollment outreach campaigns happening, and we'll share some of that. Again, we'll have a spotlight from Gateway so they can really talk about what has happened at the college level as much as we talk about what's happening at the system level. We will also share some information about the Maricopa Opportunity Grant and the tuition discounts that the board put in place in order to help us try to mitigate some of these enrollment declines. Next slide. First is our marketing campaign. We've had Make It Happen for some time. It's been very popular with students, but we needed to shift gears, perhaps pivot a bit, to really address the fears that we were hearing from the survey. So in addition to the Make It Happen, we added Learn Safe and New Ways to Save messaging within the campaign. The board was kind enough to approve a $500,000 investment to help us really reach out. Primarily that went into digital display ads, paid social media placements, digital radio, and direct mail. Next slide. And so how's it done? Well, it's done remarkably well. Our goal was 16 million impressions and 9,820 registration clicks with 785 enrollments to break even at the $500,000 investment. Now, breaking even wasn't our main goal. That was, we wanted to make sure we did that, but we wanted, of course, to drive enrollment much larger than that. So a leading indicator for enrollment is our clicks. So students, we track through pixels on maricopa.edu how students move through our systems. And the ads have earned 11.9 million impressions or clicks, and 15,000 enroll now clicks. However, enrollment results, because the population is so large, it's very difficult for us to track and measure exactly where everybody is. So what we did is use an audience of about 39,000 students to report on percentages. So it's a way of apportioning down so that we can manage that. And already what we know is we've got a 31.2% response rates, 12,400 of those prospects enrolled. That's tremendous. If you're familiar, as I know Ms. Nguyen in particular is with marketing, a 31.2% response rate on any campaign is quite remarkable. Next slide. The board also approved some tuition discounts, and we also wanted to talk about enrollment cancellation. Enrollment cancellation is the number of students that are dropped for non-payment at any given time as we lead up to the first day of class. We call it EC, and EC is currently necessary because students can and do enroll in courses that they do not intend to attend. That is, they build multiple schedules at multiple colleges trying to figure out what they want to do. And this inflates the enrollment in sections and takes up seats. And so as colleges try to do go, no go decisions about combining courses or canceling a particular section, they need to know what the actual enrollment is. However, given the strange circumstance that we're in with COVID-19, we postponed EC. And we combined that with some very intensive college and system level outreach efforts. We call that we call that pre-recovery. Rather than recovery after the fact of EC, we try to pre-recover them before we actually do it. And we were able to significantly reduce the number of folks that we would have had to EC for non-payment simply by touching, right? By reaching out. As I mentioned, we know that our students want that high touch. The more that we can provide that to them, the better off we are. So tuition discounts have been applied to 16,503 students. You can see here the data, how many of those students are out of state, a little over 3,000. About 13,500 students are on the flat rate full-time. The flat rate full-time does apply to dual enrollment students. And as we'll talk about in just a minute, we're in the very early stages of this, so of dual enrollments. And so flat rate full-time that you're seeing here is primarily regular college students. Next slide. Financial aid also did significant outreach efforts, particularly around the Maricopa Opportunity Grant and getting students to apply for FAFSA. I don't have dollar amounts or number of students for you just yet on the Maricopa Opportunity Grants because they are last dollar scholarships and we're still applying other types of scholarships such as President's Honor Scholarships, as well as federal financial aid to accounts. And so we will be able to come back to the board and we'll provide you with more data about those, about the Maricopa Opportunity Grants and how many students we've been able to assist with the money that the board put forward to support students in this time. You can see some detail there about how we've reached out to our counselors. We're offering FAFSA workshops and want to inform everyone, particularly in the high schools now, that is really ramping up of those Maricopa Opportunity Grants and the tuition discounts. Next slide. Additional information about our financial aid outreach efforts. I know that you have had a chance to look at this. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but we're seeing great return on investment for the effort that we're putting into this work. Next slide. And so now we're going to, there we go. We're going to go to our, back one, please, to our spotlight. Dr. Maria Weiss is on the line to provide a college spotlight from Gateway Community College, talking about what they're doing on the ground to mitigate enrollment issues. Dr. Weiss?
Thank you, Dr. Fisher. President Sullivan, members of the board, Chancellor Gonzalez, members of CEC, colleagues and guests, thank you for the opportunity to share some of the strategies that Gateway has implemented in the last few months. As Dr. Fisher indicated earlier, some of these strategies likely are similar to those strategies that were implemented at all of our colleges across our system. But I will say some of the things that Gateway took on this time was a little bit different than what we normally do. We rely heavily on the fact that we have significant number of cohort programs. Students come to us naturally because of the programs that we have. So we felt a need to really take a shift when we realized about 2 months ago, facing a 26% decline, our enrollment management strategies needed to change significantly. Dr. Yanni Vasalou, our Vice President of Student Affairs, and his leadership team led the effort. It was primarily a big collaborative effort between student affairs, academic affairs, institutional research, and marketing, with the most significant changes being made to have a laser-focused, data-informed approach with a proactive outreach to the different and unique student populations. Our Institutional Research and Effectiveness Office really responded well, creating a number of new dashboards for us to focus on. The data became available to our managers and our staff on a regular basis. We separated our student populations not only by their field of interest, but also by other attributes such as continuing, new students, transfer, active students, students that are in dual enrollment, and probably most importantly, students on waiting lists for some of our programs. The work was assigned to our academic advisors, which was also a significant change. They were given lists according to students in their field of interest so that we supported the implementation of our Guided Pathways initiative. And they reached out proactively to help students connect with courses that they could be taking now and walking them through the enrollment process. One of the biggest changes was really in monitoring data on a regular basis, where typically this was done at a higher level. The data became available on a daily basis to our managers and working staff. They were able to use the lists in addition to enrollment cancellation, which is one of the standard data sets that we use. We used several new dashboards, weekly enrollment dashboards that allowed us to drill down to each of the divisions and departments, prefixes, and even courses to target some selling, if you will, of classes. We looked at a new spring 2020 to fall 2020 re-enrollment dashboard, and that was quite successful, reaching out to students who were enrolled in 2020 but not enrolled in fall 2020 to help them get back on track for their programs. We used the existing inquiry admission and matriculation data files. The Institutional Research Department also assisted us in providing data analysis to identify the different student populations where significant gaps existed. They gave us the data, we created lists, and we were able to really target those populations to see if we can move that needle there. We also had some minor process changes to some of our student onboarding experiences. Our Gecko Gear Up, which is our student onboarding experience, we included registration for classes as the final experience related to that. In the past, students would go through the onboarding and then they would make an appointment to come back with an advisor and register. And so we secured several immediate enrollments through that process. So overall, it was definitely a collaborative effort to decrease that enrollment gap. I'm happy to report that today our FTSE is down just 5.8%. And as I said, I'm sure my president colleagues could share similar enrollment strategies at their colleges. I think one thing I would be remiss that if I did not mention was that we were able to open an additional site at 18th Street, which is giving us some additional capacity in our nursing programs and allied health. And so there was an opportunity for us to address some of the long wait lists in those programs by increasing our capacity, which definitely contributed to helping us close the gap in the enrollment decline. Again, thank you for allowing us to share some of those opportunities. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Dr. Wise at this time?
This is Dr. Narini.
Yes, go ahead, please.
It's not so much a question as a comment. You know, I was looking at the numbers of phone calls received by the contact center, and I think I must have been at least a dozen of those calls. I've been working with a number of students, and I just is really excited about Gateway and the way that they've their contact center and their staff has worked with students. When I call up Gateway or when I call up any of the colleges, I always call as a school counselor. I never call as a board member. And the response that I get as a counselor is always very attentive, very helpful, very informative, and they do just such a good job of getting back with me, back with the students. I had a nice long chat with one of the bots you type in just to chat with, Lindsay Wilson, and she followed up with one of my students just to the nth degree. I mean, she got to the point where she was offering the student of mine help with just childcare and that sort of thing. It's just that kind of service that happens at Gateway that's just, or that I experienced this week that was just so remarkable. And it's no wonder that the enrollment is doing as well as it is.
Thank you, Dr. Narini. We do pride ourselves on providing good service to our students.
Thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Wise on Gateway as the college spotlight presenter? You know, it's hard to tell sometimes with the mute button, but I'm going to presume there are no further questions at this moment. So Dr. Wise, do you pass this back to Dr. Fisher?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Next slide. We're going to move relatively quickly through the next bit, though there is some good news here for you, and we're going to talk about our next steps. So Maricopa Contact Center was a big investment by the board a few years ago. We don't need to go through these data in detail. Next slide. But we wanted to let you know that it's working exceedingly well. The Contact Center performed 3 critical ad hoc enrollment campaigns for fall, all around enrollment recovery. Those who were awarded but not enrolled, and that being awarded financial aid, not enrolled, and COVID-19 survey support. Now you see some NAs there. That's because our student responses were anonymous. We can't track those to individual student enrollments. However, we are seeing some great return on investment. Next slide. The Navigator campaign that I mentioned earlier, here's some data on that. Again, you've had a chance to take a look at it. Next slide. Dual enrollment, as I mentioned, has just begun. We are really in the throes and thick of it now. We're getting into it. We've done a lot of investment in providing more resources for high school counselors and for parents. We're reaching out much more through what we call, it's a product called Peach Jar. It's a communication tool used by the school districts to increase awareness of Maricopa and what students can actually take. And of course, our marketing campaign reaches our high school audiences as well. Next slide. The good news is we're very early in the fall 2020 dual enrollment process, but we're showing really good progress. Next slide. As you can see here, so week -2, we were already up. As I mentioned, our data systems update on Sunday night. So week -1, take that top number and move it to 4,097 students. So it's making a real impact in our enrollment. Next slide. So moving on, as I said, we want to make sure that we're learning from this experience. Here's what we know. We know that our marketing efforts are driving a lot of interest in and applications to Maricopa colleges. We know that the outreach efforts, the new tuition opportunities are working to convert applicants, and we have a plan that we're putting together around a data model and more analysis around the tuition opportunities that we'll be able to share with the board, as well as the Maricopa Opportunity Grants, so that we really understand how that has affected enrollment and students moving forward. We know that COVID-19 disrupted our operations, and it's really uncovered some system breakdowns that perhaps we were aware in the periphery, but it's brought them into very high relief. And so forward focus through fall 2020 and into spring 2021, we know that we have to look at our academic and non-cognitive supports so that we retain the students that we have and make sure that they not only complete the fall semester, but move on into spring. We need to continue to push for late start enrollments, those immediately after the beginning of the semester, so 12-week beginnings, and then of course the second 8 weeks. We need to apply the lessons learned from spring 2021, which we'll talk about around our enrollment efforts. And we need to continue to address our system and systems, improving them and streamlining our system-wide efforts to make sure that enrollment is moving through those latter 2 stages that we shared earlier of the enrollment steps. Or next slide. Actually, that I'm going to share now. So we're applying lessons learned for spring 2021. What we know is that we're doing relatively well in 1 and 2. These are areas that our data show us we're being successful, but we're really challenged in 3 and 4. These are our greatest opportunities moving forward. With new to Maricopa students declining 36% and continuing students down as well, we need to work to improve our communication and support for students throughout the matriculation process to ensure more of them enroll. We need to expand the Navigator campaign that's showing such promise from the fall semester. And given that students of color are enrolling in courses at lower rates, we really need to work to ensure that we have an equitable experience for them throughout application, matriculation, and our enrollment processes. Next slide. So again, students are telling us their top COVID-19 related concerns is that they're unaware of plans for reopening, how classes will be offered. They're worried about taking classes online. They're worried about their safety if they come on campus. And so we can address these by, adding communication points, particularly for students in special populations that we're losing disproportionately, by supporting students in unfamiliar modalities and by supporting faculty in unfamiliar modalities as well, so that they can support new student populations. With developmental education redesign, our goal is to place at least 80% of incoming students in college level courses while providing the tailored support that they need to be successful. And as faculty have returned to campus, the system-wide DevEd Council is really focusing on supporting faculty as they learn to support new populations of students. They've been offering a variety of webinars and trainings on topics such as creating a culture of caring, supporting students' basic needs. We also are implementing a basic needs survey at 3 colleges as a pilot and hope to expand that very quickly, so we really understand as students come in the door how we can help them be successful in and outside the classroom. Next slide. And then finally, we have a lot of system improvements and streamlining that we're focusing on. This is an ongoing challenge, as I'm sure you've heard Dr. Mark Cohen, our CIO, talk about our technology problems, our challenges. We have a lot of what we call technological debt that we have been making great strides on. Shout out to ITS. Yet again, we have a semester where SIS has been entirely stable. And while much like housekeeping, nobody notices if you do it, but they notice if you don't. SIS going down is ground zero for us. It's something that just cannot happen, and this team has made it possible. So we've already made great strides in our system improvements, but we have many more to go. There's a list of things here that we're focusing on now. We're going to continue looking at those. We have a new task force being formed to help us prioritize exactly what we can do within the ITS realm to get more bang for our buck and for our time and for our capabilities. So with that, next slide, I would just say thank you for your attention. We know this is a lot of information, but we hope it's been instructive and are open to answer any questions or field comments.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fisher. So I'm going to open it up to questions from the board. Anyone want to speak up?
Sure, it's Dana.
Hi, Dana.
I want to commend everybody involved in this because that was a lot of information, but all very good. So thank you very much for providing that to us. If we spend a week on it, we may not know it all, but over the course of the next year, I hope that we can see some improvements in what you've invested, funds that we gave you. I think it's returning well for us. But I have a couple questions marketing wise. What I didn't hear, and maybe I just missed it, was what you're doing with embedded advisors in our high schools. Are we investing any more in that?
Ms. Sullivan, Mr. Sar, yes, we have been investing more in the embedded advisor model. We're also exploring ways to work with our counselors that are already in the high schools. So it's not our full-time employees that we need to invest additional headcount in, but working with the counselors to help them become advisors for Maricopa. So yes, that's definitely on our radar. We know that it works.
I do too. I'm on the teacher side of things these days, and I can say from just the last 3 weeks we've been in school that that works really well. The students that I have at EVIT have been in contact with our advisors on the Mesa campuses. That's quite frankly how some of them got to the CTE programs that we offer. So it's working. I wish we had one of those on our EVIT campus, but I'll leave that for a later discussion.
So noted, sir.
Okay. Dual enrollment. I've been harping on dual enrollment, and the biggest problem I had 20 years ago when I was teaching was that every one of our colleges does it differently. For students and their families, and even the counselors at the schools, it makes it really tough to go through the process. So fast forward 20 years, I'm in the classroom again, almost the same one I was in 20 years ago. And I've seen a lot of improvement, especially with Mesa Community College, which we work with more than anybody else. So I can only really talk about that. Their cooperation has been excellent. So we're looking at quadrupling our dual enrollment this year over last year, just because we've had that kind of cooperation with the colleges itself. And then if you could go back to slide number 5 or 6, I believe it's 6. And the one thing that I wasn't quite sure of, under the other year-over-year impacts, the course fill rate is down 5% compared to fall of last year. Can you explain that a little bit in more detail?
Ms. Sullivan, Mr. Saar, so the class fill rate is the number of students that are in a particular section when we run it. The fill rate is down. Colleges make their own determination about when courses should be canceled or combined. I think all of us are erring on the side of compassionate open. So we're trying to stay open for as many students as we possibly can with as many courses as we can. In years past, when a course felt like it was undersubscribed or by, that felt isn't the correct word, by the college's metric was undersubscribed, it may have been canceled. I think there's more leniency this fall, trying to make sure that we keep those. I know that colleges, VPAs, and deans have been working very hard with their chairs to try to combine courses so that we don't lose students for undersubscribed courses. But I think that that's impacting our fill rate generally. So I hope that makes sense. It's something to keep an eye on.
And one thing I've found in talking to parents who are trying to register their students in Northeast Valley, which typically involves Scottsdale, Mesa, and Paradise Valley, there are, because we're 88% somewhat online one way or another, it means less as to where the student takes that online class. And I'm wondering if we're doing a good job, and I don't know this firsthand, but parents kind of mentioned it, that they can't find a class at one college that they want to take, whether it's live online or hybrid or whatever, but they do see it at another college. I'm wondering if we're discouraged from actually looking at options at other colleges that are online anyway. It doesn't make any difference where they take the class, so that we don't prevent students from having to change their work schedules potentially to work around our schedule where we should be working around theirs. That makes sense?
Ms. Sullivan, Mr. Czar, it does make sense. And on the last slide about addressing system improvements, we're improving the online course search. It's gotten remarkably better than it was even a year ago. But we understand the need for students to be able to find classes at different colleges. And, as we make it easier for them to take classes at different colleges, given our systems, we make it easier for them to get there. We have a new consortium agreement around financial aid that's online, things of that nature that help them. We're finding that the number of students that we call it swirl amongst our colleges increases, and that's fine. I mean, certainly it presents some challenges as we think about the way that our budgets are built across the district, given that they're built on FTSE, but we have a task force that's working on new ways of looking at how to apportion dollars fairly to the institutions to support students. So I think you'll see a trend over the next year to 2 years of that becoming easier and easier for students to get to the courses regardless of where they are. In Find a Class today, if you go and search for a class, you should be able to see all of, say, English 101 that are offered at any institution, so you can at least find them now.
Yeah, I probably have half the clicks that you get on class searches because I use that a lot for just killing time actually. But I'm wondering if such things as you just mentioned, with financial aid and FTSE budgeting. The other one that comes up occasionally is if a student takes half their classes from one college and the other half from the other, what college do they graduate from? So I know we've got some internal things to work out, but I just want to make sure that we work through those with the student in mind and not making it all that easy for us sometimes. And my last question is, we know that 88% of our classes, as you just said, are in some form of online. And I think we're doing a pretty good job having really got into this in March. All the students that I've talked to in the last few weeks, it's been a bunch in our colleges that are questioning what it's like to take an online class. 2 years ago now, I took my online classes in my master's program and hated it, didn't do that well. Now I take classes online at Mesa College, but I'm sure it's true with all of them. And our technology has changed so much that I enjoy it. I can't imagine where we would be today if we had the technology of 10 years ago. So you mentioned how much our IS department is doing, and I have to congratulate them as well for stepping up and making the system work for the last 6 months. I hope that this year is a learning experience for all of us, but it's doing well. So I congratulate everybody.
Thank you so much for that.
I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Sar. Those are good questions. Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Dr. Fisher?
I'll comment if I may. This is Tom Narini.
Yes, please.
Just I was I don't know, pleased or disturbed, I'm not sure which, to see that the survey that we did really echoes what I've been seeing with my students. You know, they are scared, they are nervous, they are unsure about what's going on. And I think that goes back to a little bit about what Mr. Sar was saying about the embedded advisors. The navigators that we have are sort of our campus-based advisors. And I think these positions are critical to making sure the students make that transition from high school to college. Because they're the ones who the students are going to the first line of defense for the help. So I think, you know, the investment in those navigators and those embedded advisors are critical. And I think some of the other things that we don't realize, especially when it comes to the enrollment cancellation, as we talked about the FAFSAs and how we're trying to get more and more students to fill out the FAFSAs, there's that time delay that happens, and sometimes a student is all through the process and doing all the things that they need to do, but just because the process, you know, the FAFSA doesn't get processed in time and the enrollment cancellation happens, and you know, no fault of the students and no fault of the college. It's just the way it's set up. So, you know, just kind of working on some of those things. But again, that's where the navigators can come in. That's where they can put the, you know, the hold on the students' enrollment so they don't get dropped. That was some of the work that Gateway had done for some of my students this last week. And then the other thing is, I think Dr. Fisher really undersold what's going on with dual enrollment. Dual enrollment has made some remarkable changes this year. In terms of just going from paper to dynamic forms. You know, we've cut down a whole lot of time and effort and made it a little bit more streamlined for the students, you know, and especially now in the time of COVID. You know, collecting the information has been easier and faster. And I don't know about the other campuses, but the work that I've done with PC and the work that they've done has been really outstanding in terms of just getting courses approved, getting the schedules, because some of the other things that are happening is, and the high schools have shifted their schedules, and the colleges have made their had to adapt to the new high school schedules for dual enrollment. You know, I know the work that Gina Gina Reese at Phoenix College has done with has been incredible, because Phoenix Union has gone from semesters to sort of quarters and trying to adjust the dual enrollment the college classes to the dual enrollment new schedule has been a challenge, but they've kind of stepped up to the task and really done a really good job. So, yeah, the work that that Jesus Chidas and all the his staff and stuff have done has just been remarkable with dual enrollment. I can see the increase in that going up for the next few years. But I just wanted to applaud because the work that the group has been doing with Phoenix Union in general is really going to help increase the dual enrollment as well. So just thank you for all the work that you guys are doing and all the help and cooperation and all the wonderful things. So keep up the good work.
Dr. Rooney, thank you so much for that. I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to our Associate Vice Chancellor, Keisha Brock, who took over dual enrollment just a little over a year ago. And she and Jesus and so many others across the district, there are individuals at every college that are putting their heart and soul into this work, and they're doing outstanding work. So thank you. Thank you for your kind words.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? It always takes a moment for unmuting. I don't hear any other voice, so I'm going to close our discussion for right now. I want to also congratulate you, Dr. Fisher, on an extremely thorough report, giving us the information we need and commenting on all of the wonderful activity that teams are doing throughout the district to address this issue of enrollment, but also and most importantly, take care of students and to keep at the forefront your best learning so that you can even improve for their attendance and longevity in our system. So thank you for that. Dr. Gonzalez, is there anything else you have under your report?
Well, I would just like to say, as you saw, we're down 14% in head count and 15% in footsie. I do want to point out, however, that we do have one college with positive enrollment gains this year, and that's Rio Salado, who in our latest data is up 1.3% in head count and 30% in footsie, which means that they've convinced students to take more classes and sign up for more credits than they have in the past. So I want to congratulate them on their efforts there. And I also want to recognize that this, as it's been said, that this is just work that it's going on at a systems level, and a heaviest lift is probably happening in our college campuses where we've got advisors and recruiters and others that have been making phone calls and tracking down students all summer long. So I want to thank those individuals out there on our college campuses that are doing this work. And then, with an enrollment decline, of course, there's a budgetary impact to that. And we are beginning a budget process much sooner than we have ever started a budget process. And I will be working with you, President Sullivan, to schedule a work session in the near future so that we can discuss strategies in the event that we continue to move into a spring semester with similar decline in enrollment. And so we want to get ahead of the curveball on that and just appreciate this opportunity. I know it was a very lengthy, thorough presentation, but we think that you needed to hear that and be aware of our work and what we plan to do with it, and just appreciate the opportunity, your time, patience, and always your support and leadership as a board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. And again, thank you, Dr. Fisher and Dr. Wise for your comments this evening. On the agenda, we now move to citizens interim, but there have been no requests received. So with that, I'm going to move to consideration of the consent agenda. Noted on the screen are all items with an asterisk are consent matters. Do any board members or the chancellor wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Saar, you made the motion, and Dr. Narini, you were the second?
Yes.
Correct, thank you.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to call roll. All those let's call roll, aye or nay. Mr. Hendricks,
Aye.
Ms. McGrath, come back to Ms. McGrath. Dr. Narini,
Aye.
Mr. Saar,
Aye.
Dr. Thor,
I
Ms. McGrath, are you with us?
I had a hard time getting unmuted.
I know. It takes a few minutes. So, are you a vote on the motion? Did you
Yes,
say?
I vote aye.
Thank you. I think I was Dr. Thor,
Aye.
Miss Nguyen.
Aye.
I vote aye. And Ms. Munoz, I believe you've joined us. Do you have a vote from the as student trustee?
Sorry, it took me a bit to get on as a panelist, but I have been listening since the beginning, and I vote aye as well.
Thank you very much. The motion will carry 7-0. Thank you. So then moving on to first reading information items. Are there any comments on item 13.1? Being none, moving on to monitoring reports under business services, item 14.1. Are there any comments? Item 14.2, any comments? Being none, then I'll move to governing board reports, and Ms. Munoz, I'll start with you.
Thank you. So lately, since I kind of started my role, I've mainly been focusing on speaking with the students as well as faculty. I was invited to be one of the panelists at the new, they held this kind of webinar for the new employees for the Maricopa Community Colleges, where I was able to give my perspective as a student along with 2 other students. And I think we were very successful in giving a very broad and different stories and perspectives to the teachers. You know, one of them was a returning student, one of them was a vet, and I have been a night student and now getting involved. So I think that was a very successful event just because I think we were really able to connect with the new employees and give them our perspective. A lot of them actually reached out to us as well, just to kind of, you know, ask for more information and stuff like that. As well as I've been talking to a lot of students and kind of going back to the whole, you know, counselors reaching out to the students and faculty and stuff like that. And I think that does make a huge difference. I was speaking to someone from, you know, Phoenix College, Miss Leah, who's one of the senators, and she, you know, she said that just getting a call from, you know, an employee there and asking, you know, how are you doing? How are you doing on signing up for classes? Do you need anything? She said that that was very important to her because again, it enforced that they really care and, you know, they were there for help. I've had a lot of students reach out to me as well, you know, with FAFSA questions or, you know, just questions about classes, how things are going. And I think the faculty and teachers have been doing an amazing job with that communication with their students. It is a difficult transition, and we all understand that. We're all going step to step together. But thus far, I have only heard good things. You know, I think all of the schools have done a fantastic job in keeping those resources available to the students. I know Mesa Community College just put up a Wi-Fi and desktop area where students can reserve an hour and a half to go and work on campus and use one of the computers if they need to. I know We Care Wednesdays is still going on, the Mesa Markets. So all of those resources still being available to the students, whether they're in person or online with the counselors and stuff like that, I think has made a huge impact on the students, letting them know that we still care. Of course we care, and we're still there for them throughout all of this. So that is the perspective that I've been receiving thus far.
That's great information. Thank you for keeping all of us connected to the students of the district, Ms. Munoz. And glad you were able to at least listen and are now a panelist. So thank you. With that, I'm going to go out of alphabetical order this time. So Dr. Thor, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. I want to acknowledge the passing of Ronnie Lopez, a great friend of the Maricopa Community Colleges and supporter of our foundation. In addition to his consulting firm, during his career, he was president and CEO of Chicanos por la Causa. He was a senior advisor to Governor Bruce Babbitt and an elected justice of the peace. He was our hero of education in 2011. Among many contributions, he opened doors for us with the Helios Foundation and helped us secure significant earmarked funding from the federal government. The Maricopa Community Colleges created the Ronnie Lopez Leading with Heart Award in 2008 to honor individuals who demonstrated the same selfless and passionate commitment that Ronnie had for the Maricopa Colleges. At the same time, the foundation also established the Ronnie Lopez Scholarship Endowment, which provides scholarships to graduates of the ACE program who continue on at one of our colleges. So clearly, we have lost a great friend. Thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
You're welcome. We certainly did. What a good man. Jean, I'm going to call on you after Mr. Saar, so that'll give you time to unmute. So Mr. Saar, do you have the governing board update?
Not really. Just want to welcome our student member on the board, Ms. Nunes. Hope she has not only a fun time as a board member, but also does well in her classes, which is more important in the long term anyway. So I also like to acknowledge what Dr. Thor said about Ronnie Lopez. I got a chance to meet him many times, and I know we're going to miss him. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saar. So Mrs. McGrath, are you ready for your governing board update?
Hello.
Yeah, we're here.
I can hardly hear you.
I apologize. Can you hear me better now?
You're Melania.
I know. Mrs. McGrath, do you have any governing board report?
I can hardly hear you. I have no report.
Thank you. With that, Dr. Narini?
Thank you. First, I just want to echo again to what Dr. Thor had to say about Ronnie Lopez. I've known him and his family for quite some time. So it is a huge loss for the district and for the community in general. The rest of my report was kind of stolen with the, all the talk about dual enrollment and the wonderful work that Gateway's been doing. So with that, I just wanted to make sure that everybody got a chance to see Alejandra's video on the Maricopan this month. That was a nice little video she did. And again, welcome our new student board member. But I also wanted to commend and congratulate Dr. Rivera for all the work that he's doing on diversity, equity, and inclusion over at Estrella Mountain. The work that he's put together, some of the committees and stuff, has been doing some great work and bringing to light some issues that need to show some light to. So with that is my report.
Thank you, Dr. Narini. Ms. Nguyen?
No report, thank you.
Mr. Hendricks?
No report, but thank you.
And for me, I just want to again welcome everyone back to the full school year. You've done great work in increasing our enrollment. Yes, I recognize we have a ways to go. The other thing I want to say thank you to IT, because I know they work very hard to give us the best support possible on a daily basis, and particularly as we go through these meetings and managing all these people. So Dr. Cohn and to Ryan and Edgar, Jordan, and I'm sure I'm missing others, I just want to say thank you. And I wish everyone and hope everyone has an outstanding academic few weeks coming up, semester, year, all of the above. And with that, I'm going to close out our meeting with the acknowledgement that our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be September 22nd at 6:30. Thank you all. May you all have a good night.